Hey everybody, welcome to the MGF Podcast. This is episode 10 of the show where we talk movies, Lego, and whatever else. Joining me as always is Tait.
What's up, guys? I hope everyone's having a good day. We have a great show for you guys today, as
Hell
always.
yeah, dude. We're already at episode 10, Tait.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, shoot.
10 weeks of this shit already. 10 weeks of this shit and we're demonetized straight out the gate.
I mean, here's the thing, Ross. We're not trying very hard. We have our one F-bomb per episode, but the SH has been used a lot more than it was during the inception.
Yeah, man. So
yeah, but we're at 900 subscribers. That is awesome. Thank you guys so much. That is just...
Yeah, we're going to be cracking 1,000 pretty soon. That's crazy, man.
Insane.
Like, that's so cool. I always try to really make sure, whenever I talk about subscribers, make it clear to people who, especially when they think they have smaller channels. It's like, dude,
that's,
and in our case, it's like that's 1,000 people almost already that like click the button because they potentially want to keep listening to our dumbasses talk every now and then while they may be doing something else. And it's like, that's amazing. So thank you guys so much for supporting this so far. Thank you for just being here to hang out with us because, of course, we started off this whole thing just because Tait and I can talk for hours on end without fail and without disruption. So we figured, hey, let's turn it into a podcast, and that's what this has been, a little place for us to hang out with you guys and talk about stuff and kind of like capture, I guess, it's kind of cool because it's like we're capturing moments in time like from each week, and I think that's really cool because that's not something you usually get by like doing vlogs inconsistently like I have, or when you're not on a schedule. So I think this has been really cool, Tait.
Yeah, it's been real nice, guys, and the support, the fan outreach as well. I mean, it's been incredible. Like I was saying, put 900 people in a room and you won't be able to walk through. Like this is insane
Exactly.
so far. But Ross has something special to show everyone.
Yeah, man. So, of course, as promised, this summer I'm focusing on Avengers Endgame, and I did get started on the Iron Man Mark 85 this past week,
So
making some slow but steady progress. And so we've got this quick teaser photo of where I'm at right now. This is usually the stuff that goes up on Patreon first, but I figure, hey, it's the 10th episode of the podcast. We had like 20 minutes to go, and I was like, might as well do something cool because we didn't really plan ahead of time. Mostly my fault. And I was like, we'll at least do this. But yeah, dude, so this is the quick progress photo of the Mark 85. And where I'm at right now, I've painted the majority of the helmet. Tait, did you get the slide out?
Well, I mean, I wanted to drum roll, please.
You want to do a drum roll?
Ross, if you look at stream, there's the teaser image right there. Do you see that teaser
there it
image?
is, man. There's the feet.
That is the teaser image.
It's the blank feet.
Here,
Other customizers always harangue me because I'm just like, the feet and the legs are always the last thing I do on a figure. I just don't enjoy painting legs. It's like, for me, the least exciting part of making a new figure. Legs are just always like really time consuming. It's basically like painting the front and back of the torso. It's equivalent to that amount of time. But
there's your teaser image, guys.
Sorry,
it was taken on a Polaroid from 1994, and then I took a picture of that with my camcorder, and that's our teaser. No, guys, I'm just teasing.
Exactly.
Here's the teaser.
It was actually just taken in front of this MacBook right here, like literally 5 minutes ago. But yeah, man.
But yeah, here's the teaser image. Look at that figure, Ross. Oh man, it works so far. Oh no, we lost Ross. Are you there, dude? Oh no. Ross just died. Oh jeez. His audio just cut. Give me a second, guys. I'm gonna call him. Call Ross.
Calling Ross.
Oh, are you here? Are you back? Ross, you there? Hello, can you hear me?
I have no idea what happened. We're still on the call. And as far as I can tell, the router is... I'm still hooked in. I have no idea what happened, dude.
Well, here's the great quality that the MGF podcast provides. Here's Ross on my
man, of course, episode 10. It's like the technical difficulties never seem to end.
All right, you're back. We can hear you
Okay.
now. We can
I
hear
guess
you over
my Ethernet
Discord.
cable just decided to die. Tate, if you could fill everybody in on the chat, that would be great while I turn the Wi-Fi back on, since now my Ethernet cable just decided to screw me over. Here we go.
Yeah, I'll talk about the
Okay.
hard work you
We
did on
try
the
to
Mark
reconnect on the
85.
call, dude, right?
Yeah, I'll talk about the hard work on the Mark 85. So
Okay.
essentially, guys, I did this entire figure. This is all my work. Ross is just taking credit for it.
Dude, can you hear me now?
I hope you didn't hear that last thing.
No, I
can
just put my
hear you,
earphones
Ross.
back in. Dude, I can't stand this. Like, I was I'm all hooked up. I've got the Ethernet cable, like, running across the house on the floor. Nobody stepped on it. Nobody disconnected it. And I didn't even get cut out of the call either. Unbelievable. But hey, I'm back, man. I'm literally right as we're trying to show off the Mark 85 and its current progress. It's like, nope. But anyway,
we should just call this MGF Raw and Uncut because we're not changing this when the actual full podcast comes out.
Yeah, man.
But anyway,
anyway, technical difficulties aside, the Mark 85 is going super well. Got some minimal sculpting that I had to do on the shoulders, on the chest. I also had to sand the crap out of the top of the helmet, the sides of the helmet especially, and a lot on the back to smooth it out and make it resemble the Mark 85 more. You can see more of that stuff over on Patreon right now. But as far as this teaser image goes, I still have a lot of work to do on the arms and obviously the entirety of the legs. A bit more detail on the lower abdomen of the torso. Got to do the back of the torso. Got to do the HUD inside the helmet. Got to do the battle damaged Tony Stark head. Got to do the Infinity Stone hand. Got to do the entire paint job on the air flap piece that came in from Tuminio. I'm really not that far along. It's a little bit terrifying, but hey, man, that's what I'm doing for Endgame. Just really taking time to make sure these figures are everything that I want them to be, because this is going to be my last new Iron Man suit, for a long time. Like, I think in the near future, like maybe, several months from now, like, several months after Endgame, I'll probably wind up making like Captain America and Iron Man from the first Avengers, for instance, or the stealth suit. So it's not like it's going to be my last Iron Man or my last Captain America. But as far as new Captain America and like, new Iron Man and new Captain America figures go, or any other characters that exited for Endgame, this is going to be the last time that I get to make a new version of those characters. And so that's why, this is really special to me, that I kind of take it easy and like, not try to power through the process here. But now that I am back and alive, that is the current progress on the Mark 85, and I can't wait to get back to work on it today. And then tomorrow is going to be monopolized, because I actually just got in the new Stranger Things set early last night, and I'm waiting till tomorrow to build it with my sister, and then going to get started on that review. But as far as the rest of the stream goes, I don't know what order you want to do this in, Tate, but we've got John Wick 3 and a potential new Batman casting pick to talk about.
Guys, I do want to add, before Russ does move on to the rest of the Avengers, he does have to create Ben 10 and every single one of Ben 10's aliens, as well as the entire CW cast.
Yeah, so I have to go through my entire catalog of requests and do every single figure in that request feed first, and then I can make Endgame figures. I got to go through all the Instagram DMs, got to go through all the Twitter DMs, I got to go through every comment on YouTube, and once I make literally every figure from everyone's request, I can keep going on the Endgame figures.
Anyway, guys, let's move on to John Wick first off, because that's a lot to talk about and unpack. So we saw John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum last night. Ross, non-spoiler, initial thought, what do you got?
So, I really enjoyed John Wick 1 and 2. They're just really fantastic, stylistic, straightforward action films with Keanu Reeves just being Keanu Reeves and just kicking ass as just such an amazingly talented assassin. And, we kind of talked about this a little bit, and that's just something that I really appreciate, is that sort of change of pace where it's like, John Wick is a nearly unstoppable force, and so there isn't a lot of like physical conflict that he can't overcome in these movies. And so it's all about how he copes and how he deals with what he's confronted with in these crazy scenarios as an assassin. And that just, for me, makes the series, and I think that's a large portion of what makes it so much fun. And so I didn't really care for John Wick 1 until I saw it. Like, I didn't really rush to see it. I saw it online. I think I rented it on Amazon or something like in 2015. And then Yeah, I didn't see John Wick 2 until like sometime last year. I really didn't rush to seeing the first couple of movies, but this is the first of the John Wick movies where I actually got tickets to day one, went out of my way to go see the follow up because, the third movie in what seemed like would be a trilogy, but potentially they may go, further after this. Um, it's a damn good movie. It is a brutal movie. It is not a movie to take your parents to if they really aren't,
I took my mom.
aren't. Yeah. How did that go, by the way?
Oh, dude, my mom loves movies.
Oh,
Yeah, no, my mom.
man,
My
some
mom
of the
watches
some
that
of the
kind
scenes
stuff.
in John Wick 3, I just pictured like how my parents would react, and I was just like, yeah, this is why it's great that I just can go by myself now, because it's like, man, before you can drive and you have to take your parents, it's like, yeah, it's an awkward experience. Like I had to go see Deadpool with my dad back in like early 2016, all those years ago, and remember that experience. That was fascinating. And so, yeah, man. But John Wick 3 is really great. It's super exciting because of course spoilers for the second movie. But it kind of ends where John Wick is on the run and he's being hunted down by a lot of people, and it's a really powerful scene toward the end there. But he finally, this movie just picks up directly after that. Literally like minutes after.
Yeah,
And
40 minutes. 40 minutes after.
yeah, like he's
Yeah.
literally just still on the run now in New York, and it's like he's gearing up for war. I mean, as the title implies, and oh man,
And
it
okay,
is just a wild, brutal, unrelenting ride from start to finish, and it's like at one point I was like, man, should I be enjoying this? I kind of am. I mean, like even when guys are getting like their eyes stabbed out or their necks broken over books or like other crazy stuff that happens in the movie, I was just like, yeah, this is pretty well done. Like there's just so much passion poured into these movies. It's impressive.
All right, guys. So I'm sorry, but I'm gonna tear apart another franchise that you guys all enjoy, like I always do with the MCU. But just kidding. No, I loved this movie. Uh, this isn't a movie if you are strictly a cinema goer who wants to see high value stories, dialogues, performances. The performance is great. The story's serviceable. You're going to see John Wick shoot people in the head. That's
All
what you're gonna,
headshots, man.
all headshots.
Always lands the headshots.
Now, this is not my preferred John Wick movie. My favorite one is the first one because of the fact that there's the most gunfighting exclusively. There's the most exposition in that one as well. They focus on the story most. But in the first one, he uses guns a lot more than knives. And this one, he uses knives a lot more than guns, which isn't my preferred John Wick. But oh my gosh, is the fighting great. I feel like they put the best. They put the best combat scenes when it comes to goons and such, like just hordes of goons, into the first 10 minutes, 20 minutes of the movie, which really got me hooked, got me ready for the movie. And you have a really great gunfight towards the middle, and then you have a great gunfight at the end. You have a great sword fight at the end. I hope that's not spoilers, but it's really not. I mean, that's pretty
Yeah,
ambiguous.
there. I mean,
And
I think it's been in advertising. There are ninjas in John Wick.
yeah, and that's kind of there's kind of like this natural evolution for the series. Like in John Wick 1, he's fighting thugs and he's using guns. In John Wick 2, he's fighting assassins and he's using a lot of knives. And in this movie, it's just knives fest, knives and swords and axes and books and all that kind of stuff. There's a brutality that's very similar to the pencil scene that opens in the beginning of the movie. That's great. That's absolutely great. But
I was kind of bummed that there were no pencils or pens used in this movie, though.
right? I mean, that's such a staple. Like after the second movie came out and the pencil scene, that was huge.
Yeah,
Oh
I
man.
mean, but it's like at the same time, I guess if you can't one up it, don't do it again, right?
I mean, they were trying. We'll talk about it in the spoiler section because there's one section where they kind of try to call back to it in a certain scene. But anyway, guys, this movie is the most Eastern inspired, I'd say. Um, the one thing that kind of missed me is I practice Eastern martial arts at least when I'm healthy. I have a lot of health issues, but that's besides the point. I've practiced Eastern martial arts, specifically Chole Foot Kung Fu, and it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. You brutalize your opponent, And because of the fact that Keanu Reeves is 54, I see some strikes like tiger palms and raking tigers, and it's just so funny to me that they're so weak. You know what I mean? Because like they really have to pull their punches with these brutalizing strikes. Because I mean, one, Keanu Reeves is 54. Two, this is a movie. But you definitely, I will say, my one critique of this movie is that you can definitely tell Keanu Reeves is 54 when he's doing the stunt work. He does a lot of the stunt work, and that's great for him. I mean, shoot, that's freaking rad that a 54-year-old's doing stunt work in a movie. But,
yeah, and he's I love how he's always so humble about it. Like, he's such a good dude.
Oh, dude, Keanu Reeves is awesome. I love Keanu Reeves. Much love for you. Keanu, if you're watching this, dude, come on the podcast. We have a spot for you. Be the third the third host every week, Keanu. Yeah. I know you're definitely not that busy. No, but anyway, it's yeah, you can definitely tell Keanu's 54 when he's, performing the action scenes, because there were a few strikes, and the choreography is incredible, but there's a few strikes in the movies where you're like, okay, yeah, Keanu Reeves is 54.
Yeah, and I mean, and it also, this is so awful because we're talking about how old Keanu Reeves is and how, personally, I didn't notice, but I can see how you did.
Yeah. Oh, and it's not a bad thing. It makes the movie more enjoyable, in my opinion, because how badass is Keanu Reeves that he's doing his own stunts at 54?
Yeah, and he doesn't even call them his own stunts. He says that he does a lot of the action, and he kind of creates a delineation and a distinction between those two definitions.
Right, because putting people into rolling arm bars maybe isn't a stunt in Keanu Reeves' mind because he's such a badass. Like maybe jumping off of a helicopter is, but what a guy. I mean, Keanu Reeves is what makes me enjoy these movies so much, because it's just so fun to see him on screen killing people. That sounds morbid, but Keanu Reeves, much love.
Yeah, man, and one thing that really surprised me that I wasn't expecting, because I don't know that I really even watched any trailers for John Wick 3. I can't remember watching any trailers.
I didn't watch any.
Yeah, and so it was all new to me, and I didn't watch it or anything like that, really. All I knew about John Wick 3 going in is that he's going to be, hunted down by all those assassins. There's going to be a horse and a motorcycle chase. It's literally all I knew going in.
See, I didn't know about the horse. The horse was good.
Yeah. So I guess, just real quick, to kind of close off the non-spoiler section, so we can talk spoilers. John Wick 3, if you ask me, I think, going in after toward the end, I was like, is this really better than the first two? And then by the time you get to the end of the final battle, the final, fight, I was like, oh my God, yes, absolutely. What a thoroughly entertaining experience. And it is just so awesome because, listen, man, I'm a proponent of CGI. I think using CGI to benefit a movie is not something that should ever be frowned upon, and obviously when it's not done well, sure. But, in terms of just shunning in and focusing so heavily on practicality that you can't enjoy the possibilities of CGI, I've never been able to get behind that. And so with this movie, it's been kind of refreshing because they do focus on the practicality as much as possible. And so as much as I appreciate the proper use of CGI like that to enhance films with action sequences like this, seeing an incredibly talented, crew of God knows however many people worked on this movie to make it happen, and Keanu Reeves, all the teams of people that he worked with in different departments to pull off every sequence, it is refreshing to see a straight up action movie like this that's so gritty and down to earth, just in the streets of New York or the streets of Casablanca, and everything is authentic, and that is cool for these ground level real world, not necessarily real world, but realistic movies where CGI isn't necessarily needed if you have the talented, passionate crew behind it, and it's it's by far the best of the three movies. It's really fantastic, and I mean, I wouldn't recommend you take Mom, but I definitely recommend you check it out when you get the chance.
Yeah. So my take before we get onto the spoiler section is that when creating a definition for what a movie is in 2019, some people might say stories are important, acting's important, plot's important, but I think for the general audience, they want to see high octane, making this almost the perfect movie. In that sense, this is the quintessential action movie. John Wick Chapter 3 takes so much from, like you were saying, with the lack of CGI and the really tight choreography and the really wide shots. It takes a lot of inspiration from Eastern, not only Eastern, combat techniques, but Eastern movie techniques as well. I mean, this feels like the natural evolution of Eastern cinema, but in a Western, with a Western lead, and that's pretty incredible in my opinion. Like I said, though, I do prefer John Wick 1, and my brother has not seen John Wick 1 or 2. He kind of preferred, or, no, prefers is the wrong word. He would have preferred to see both of them before watching this movie because he was lost for a little while. So if you haven't seen 1 or 2, maybe watch at least 2, probably both of them, before watching this one. But
because I mean,
if you're
because
doing
you definitely lose a lot, man.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you're doing what I did and you want to just turn your brain off and watch a fun movie, that's what I did. I didn't analyze it at all. I mean, I analyze every movie I watch except for the John Wick movies because the story's serviceable, the acting's fine, but you're there for the action, and the action is incredible.
You didn't analyze anything except for, man, Keanu Reeves is old.
I didn't analyze anything, but I and when I say Keanu Reeves is 54, I mean that out of complete respect. I hope that's not misconstrued because my dad is also 54, and my dad's in good shape, and it's just hard for him to do some things. So power to Keanu Reeves for being able to do this at 54 because who else?
Yeah, honestly, man, I forgot how old he is, and I thought he was 4 watching a movie yesterday.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean,
it's impressive.
I mean that out of complete respect. But anyway, spoiler time. If you have not seen John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, please tune out of the podcast until we move on to another section. But yeah, we will have a graphic on screen that says spoilers, and we will be starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ross.
This movie is brutal.
This movie is insane. It is the most, as I was saying, non-spoiler, it is the most hand-to-hand combat heavy of the 3 movies, making the brutalities far worse. John Wick is stabbing people in the eyes. He's making them scream. It's crazy.
He's throwing axes into people's brains.
Yeah. He there was one scene towards the beginning of the movie. I still think that the opening is probably the best hand-to-hand combat when he's fighting a group of goons. But
that was nuts.
In the beginning of the movie when he throws 9 knives at this one guy and they just going from his belly button up to the tip of his head. Oh my gosh.
Dude. Yeah, the knife throwing sequence was nuts.
So spoiler section, I got a special story for the spoiler section. So like I said, the beginning of the movie is by far the best in my opinion in terms of group fighting, in terms of John Wick versus a group. But there was this little kid, 8 years old, sitting in front of me, just maniacally cackling every time John Wick stabbed somebody in the head. And oh my gosh, no. I think his mom is creating. I'm not even gonna say that word because I don't want to say that word, but you guys know where I'm getting at. It was disgusting, and here's the thing: I was not laughing when people were getting their heads blown off. I was kind of cringing, but in that kind of oh, this is entertaining cringe, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of like a wincing wow.
Wow. Oh, that they did that.
Yeah.
But no, this little kid, he was into it. He really this kid's playing Mortal Kombat, ripping his brother's spine out and stuff. I mean, man, that was crazy. But yeah, that first action scene, it's a 1v1, which is always great to see. And as soon as that first action scene happened with the hand-to-hand fight choreography, I was like, okay, this movie's going to take after the second, not the first. Because if you guys have seen the first one, you know that there's a lot of gunfighting. It's majority gunfighting, and he only fights people hand-to-hand when they get up close, and he usually pistol whips them. But in the second movie, there's a lot of hand-to-hand, and in this movie, there's even more hand-to-hand. So, I mean, if you like Eastern Kung Fu movies, that's practically what this is. At least half of the Kunzi fights are Chinese, and then the other half are Japanese using their, respective techniques. Which is cool.
Can we talk about the ninjas? Because, man, what's the woman's name with the short hair?
Oh,
what was the rule?
Abductor.
Yeah, I'll have to check it up on IMDb. We'll just call her the broker. I don't know. I don't have a name for her. The lady with the short black hair.
Meathead.
Yeah, when she walked up to, I think that was their sushi joint there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And
how may I help you? And then he starts talking completely like,
dude, I didn't know that she was like
awesome.
summoning the arm, like that. She basically went there and summoned the hand. I mean, like,
oh yeah, absolutely. No, that was great. I loved
these guys,
that scene.
These guys show up to punish the Russians and Lawrence Fishburne's guys, and just start going through people like butter. I mean, it is like Jedi versus battle droids, except it's not lightsabers and and droids. It is just straight up katanas, chopping people up, impaling people, just going through their faces, going through their brains, into their mouths from up above. I mean, Lawrence Fishburne himself gets sliced up 7 times. I honestly thought he was dead. I was like, oh my God.
Jeez.
Like that, man, when ninjas just, like as somebody who really hasn't consumed a lot of material like that, where I would see, that kind of combat, it is still always a little like jarring because it's like, whoa.
Yeah, so I absolutely loved the fact that they were using wakizashis as opposed to katanas, because of the fact that it really kind of drove home that these guys are brutal up close. Just brutal up close fighters.
Yeah.
These guys are executioners, and oh man, I loved the delineation between, you have the Russian mob, you have the Bowery Underground, you have the Chinese mob, and then you have the Japanese ninja mob. It's such a great delineation, specifically in the fighting techniques. Like the guys who pursued John Wick at the beginning of the movie, they're all Chinese fighters. You know, when he goes to the antique weapons shop, they're all using Chinese fighting technique, which is super cool.
Right.
Like I think there were a couple things that were used, but like just to see the delineation between the different I guess
Fighting
regions
styles,
and nationalities using their respective fighting techniques was incredible. And then this movie felt like a natural evolution of the franchise. Remind me, were the assassins in the second one, were they Chinese or Japanese, or were they just ambiguous Asian? Because I don't remember.
Ambiguous Asian, exactly. I don't know. I forgot.
I feel like they were half Chinese, half Japanese, but I could be wrong. Anyway, you have the Russians in the first movie, or the Eastern Europeans. I don't remember if they're specifically Russian, but you have the Eastern European thugs, and then you have the more organized Asian crime syndicate. And then in this movie, you just have straight up, you have practically what is the U.S. government in this universe. I mean, these guys control the government, you can tell. But you have
the high table.
Right, you have the high table, practically the U.S. government, and then just the brutal Japanese ninja special forces guys. This movie is insane when it comes to hand. It's
and
crazy. John Wick snaps a guy's neck with a book. Are you kidding me?
I actually unfortunately got that spoiled for me in an interview right before I went to go see it, so I knew it was coming, but man, didn't make it any less brutal seeing it. I mean, that guy's head does like a 90-degree angle over that book. I mean, it was like, just like, yo. And he even like really messes up his jaw right before doing it too.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa.
That's an NBA player, dude. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, I could tell. I mean, good God, the guy's a human skyscraper.
Yeah. I do want to add, guys. That kind of moving forward. In this movie, John Wick, and it opens with this, John Wick is kind of pulling in favors that he's owed, and I really like that. I know I said I didn't analyze the movie. That's a lie, because I did, because I'm an analytical person. But just to see this delineation, in the first movie, John Wick is a complete powerhouse who can't be stopped. He is the Baba Yaga. He is the one. He's the last thing that men see before they die. In the second movie, John Wick is being hunted, but he becomes the hunter. Hunted to hunter, and in this movie he's just powerless. So we do see a story, a plot. We see progression, which is really good to see. But I kind of liked to see John Wick powerless, because he's the most powerless person ever.
I mean, personally, I feel like his abilities weren't like undercut too much,
Yeah.
Like, even though he was beat to hell and stabbed and bleeding constantly throughout the movie, I mean, he still never really lost a fight.
Right.
It's not like he had to run away at any point.
No, John Wick never loses a fight. That's what's so great about the franchise. I mean,
yeah,
this movie's
so he still does kind of maintain that mantle of the Baba Yaga. Like you're not losing that in this movie, I think, and I really appreciated that because it is refreshing when your protagonist is able to put up a fight for that long and is that capable, because it's so, you don't get that as much. You don't get that many movies today that fully embrace the protagonist just from that starting point. It's always working up to that point first, right? Yeah. Before you even consider your protagonist being a powerhouse like that. But the John Wick series unapologetically just makes it clear he is a well-trained, unbelievably skilled, badass assassin and can take on the entire city of New York
on his own.
Yeah. On his own.
Yeah, John Wick's story writers, they respect the character that John Wick is. The fact that he's a complete powerhouse. We see so many times that ultra powerful characters are for some reason in arbitrary struggle situations. But I feel like whoever wrote this movie respected the fact that John Wick is a powerhouse, and they did do good conflict and made him feel kind of powerless, but he never felt completely powerless. Like I'm sorry to bring this up because I always bring this up, but in The Last Jedi, because that's another movie with a Mary Gary Sue, Rey just has conflicts for no reason. You know what I mean? Like, oh, she's having a fight with Luke Skywalker when she could really just create a force explosion that would kill everyone. Imagine that kind of movie, but with the respect paid to John Wick. Right, I mean, Rey would have killed the entire First Order, and that would have kind of been rad to see. So it's really refreshing to see the character respected in this way.
And also with John Wick, they give you some background in this movie. He kind of visits.
There's a backstory that we don't see in the other movies yet, and it's done so well. Sorry to cut you off, Ross, but
no. I mean, it's done so well, and it's like really seamless. It just works right in to the ongoing story, and it doesn't slow the movie up.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, John Wick's becoming more and more fleshed out, which is kind of the Joker issue, where like the more and more you flesh him out, the less interesting he becomes. But I feel like they're being respectful, and they're not fleshing him out too much.
Right. I mean, it was really just a hint more than anything. I mean, what was I think the reveal was that he was
Jordani, though. Like that. Whoa.
Yeah. And then he's like from that he's Russian and trained in I assume that location there, for at least at some point in his life. So I mean, it was barely anything.
Yeah. I will add. Speaking of that, I loved that the comeuppance for everyone except for Winston was an injury, right? I loved that.
Yeah,
Lawrence
dude.
Fishburne getting stabbed 7 times, and then the Russian mother, I don't know her name because this is her first movie, but her hands getting cut. But then, oh man, the thing with Winston,
those moments I had to put my hands in my hoodie. It was.
Yeah, no, but that's so good because they're not killing off the main cast and then resurrecting them later. Like,
because when they did that with Lawrence Fishburne, I was like, man, don't kill Lawrence Fishburne. He's great in this.
Right. Here's the thing. I mean, the movie's not being like it's not a situation where this person got shot mortally, and then now they're coming back. Like, no, Lawrence Fishburne got artificial cuts, all down his body.
Yeah, but he still lived. I was like, okay.
Right, but I mean, it's not like when people get shot in the heart and they're like, "Oh, I'm dying," and then all of a sudden they come back later. No, that felt semi-realistic, and I'm glad that they respected the audience. I wish that they would have cut up his eye. I wish he would have had an eye patch because Lawrence Fishburne.
I was expecting that. I kind of like how they left that vague and unambiguous. Not unambiguous. They left it ambiguous because you didn't know what their intentions were. They just said 7 cuts. They didn't say if those 7 cuts were intended to kill him, and so you don't actually really know if he survived that or not. He just falls over, and then at the end when it's revealed that he did survive, you could tell that I forget the leader of the ninjas there. I forget his name, the character's name, but
my brother called him Sushi Master, so we could go with that.
His name was Zero. Oh, okay. He was not intending to kill him. And so that was really cool. I got to say, though, one problem that I did with the movie, one small nitpick, The Adjudicator.
Mm-hmm.
The Adjudicator? How do you say that?
Adjudicator.
Adjudicator. Thank you. I was like, wait, that didn't sound right. Yeah, the Adjudicator. I was like, all right, this is like the stereotypical, image of who you get on the other end when you want to speak to the manager.
Right.
Like this lady's the manager, and it was just a little too on the nose for me. It was just like you had this stuck-up lady coming into this movie trying to boss around the most skilled assassins in New York, and it's like,
but dude, it's so in character. It's so in character. Like that's the thing.
Sure,
like, look at the character of Winston and look at the concierge.
Yeah,
look at everyone in the movie.
But like Winston demonstrates his capability in the movie. He demonstrates at the Continental when he needs to, and he locks the building down and sicks John Wick or the Charon the concierge guy. On whoever is attempting to oppose him, like the movie ends with him demonstrating his power. I kind of wish the Adjudicator got to demonstrate her power a little bit. I was kind of expecting there to be a fight between her and John Wick.
Now, here's the thing with here's the thing with John Wick in general. It's so campy and on the nose. These are dark comedies. They don't take themselves seriously, despite being extremely graphic material. And the Adjudicator just being a bitch and using everybody else felt so in character and so in theme with the movie. I loved that. Because these are people, you don't know the extent of anything they know how to do. They're just a bunch of hostile people that are completely unknown and completely ambiguous as to how powerful they are. Because, I mean, oh man, when you see the scene in the first movie, when you're introduced to the Continental for the first time, and you see the colorful characters that are inside, all the zany characters, as Rick from Rick and Morty would say, I mean, it's so in theme to have, just a stuck-up bitch be treating these people like children because of the fact that it's so normalized. And I don't know, dude. It's just, I really liked the fact that she didn't have to prove herself, because not everybody has to prove themselves in this universe. Just like, Winston does sick John Wick, but before this, he just said how scared he was of him.
But I just felt like for the one character that goes around asserting authority throughout the whole movie to not demonstrate any herself, I was like, just tossing John Wick down to the ground once, I think would have been great. Just something. But it's a minor nitpick more than anything. I didn't really care by the end.
I loved now, here's the thing I loved about this movie. They really respect their audience in terms of they know what their audience is there for. This movie has way more comedy in it and like comedic death. And I know that sounds morbid, but it has comedic death in it compared to the other two movies. The first one is the most kind of grounded and realistic and least humorous, and this one's by far the most. You said his name's Zero, right? The bald assassin? The bald badass? Sushi Master? I'm going to call him Sushi Master because that's what my brother called him. But his humor felt so in-universe, right? It felt so consistent with the rest of the world. I mean, it's a crazy New York that John Wick takes place in, and it just felt right at home. And all the people, wanting John Wick's autograph and kind of treating him with respect because he's such a legend. I mean, I liked that a lot because it's so campy and it's so consistent with the rest of the...
I was not expecting that, by the way, out of Zero. Yeah. Like when they're finally in the Continental and they're just sitting down, and then like he just sits so awkwardly further up in the seat, and then John's just like, he gets up and moves. Oh my god, dude! And he starts like he's like, man, I've been really looking forward to this. You're John Wick. It's like after this major chase scene on motorcycles where John is like taking all of his guys out. I mean, oh my god! And then he's just like, "Is that the dog? That's the dog." I was like, this is a really cool character. Now, I'll be honest, man. I don't feel like he one-upped Common from the last movie. I loved Common in John Wick 2. I didn't feel like any of the villains that he had to confront in this movie quite stood up to Common. I thought, I don't know, there was just, Common brought such a presence that I had a feeling they wouldn't be able to easily one-up in John Wick 3. And, but they were still all really great in this movie, man. And, and all the stuff that happened in Casablanca, I mean, I knew they were going to Casablanca. I knew Halle Berry was in the movie, but I didn't know that she had trained 6 months with, I think they were Rottweilers.
No, they were German Shepherds.
German Shepherds, thank you. And I was like, dude.
Yeah, I like that Halle Berry
I was
used
not
sparingly. I really liked that.
Yeah. But whenever she was on screen, man, oh my God, the force that she brings to this movie. I mean, just in her intro sequence with John when he confronts her just face to face before they even enter into any combat, I was like, "Yo, Halle Berry needs to be in more things." Or maybe just I guess I need to watch more of the movies she's in.
Yeah, just watch Catwoman and you'll change your life.
Because she's in. I haven't heard great things about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I was like, when they finally when they confront what was that guy's name up on the balcony there, the Beretta, yeah, he was.
Oh, dude, like I said, I mean, I turned my brain off. I don't know anybody's
Yeah.
names. Like we just coined terms after the movie.
he was really cool, man. But then when he shoots one of her dogs, I was like, tell me he didn't just like shoot it in the neck or something, and that was on the vest. And I was so glad that it was, because like I cannot handle seeing another dog die in this franchise. And
oh man, I loved the quip too. I mean, this is what I'm saying when this is a comedy, a dark comedy. When John was like, I know how it feels, but don't kill him.
And that whole fight sequence that ensues after, where him and Halle Berry, I mean, it's like 2 John Wicks. I mean, like, she's just as skilled as him.
Right. So my thing was,
oh my God.
I'm like, oh man, like I hope that she's not, like, I hope that this isn't the rest of the movie, because she did, like, during that specific Casablanca fight scene, she took away from John Wick a lot. Like, you saw maybe 45 seconds of John Wick, and you saw straight up 6 or 7 minutes of Halle Berry. So it's really like, okay, I hope that the movie doesn't consistently do this. But when they go back to New York and it's back to a John Wick movie, I went back and I said, okay, I really appreciate that they showed us another badass for a few minutes.
Yeah, dude, and it was so amazing. I mean, like, you can just tell how all the training that she put in with those German Shepherds paid off, because I was like, when I think that you know, like, obviously there were some cuts here and there, but it was mostly a lot of really long takes. And when she's like in those sequences issuing commands to them, I was like, oh my God, it was just fantastic. I mean, I've never seen anything like that in the movie, where German Shepherds are used quite like that proficiently. I was like, that was just so thrilling to watch, man. Yeah. And as just like John Wick, they're just nailing headshot after headshot, the dogs knocking guys down, and then they headshot them after. I mean, whoa.
Yeah.
And when the dog like makes the leap up the wall toward the end of the
jumps
sequence,
on her back. Oh man.
I was like, that was my favorite sequence in that was my favorite sequence in the whole movie, I think.
It was pretty cool. Because
I don't know, man, because I also love the final battle in the Continental. It's hard.
Oh, see, I'm more of a... I'll get into it later, but I loved the Casablanca scene because also, I mean, I'm pretty sure Halle Berry was screaming Moroccan words at the dogs. Mm-hmm. And it just felt like she felt so tied to that area, and I really hope that in Chapter 4 or in Chapter 5, because Keanu Reeves is going to keep making these movies until he can't walk, because he's badass. But, man, I think we're going to see Halle Berry again. I think we're going to see her hunt it down. Maybe they're going to do a spin-off movie, even. But having her in the movie for as long as she was, it was used very sparingly. But I don't know if I could watch an entire movie of just Halle Berry. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because she doesn't have that stoic. And the great thing that makes John Wick, the great thing that makes John Wick so enjoyable is how stoic he is, how soft-spoken he is, all of those kind of things that you're getting with a Lucy, or then the new Anna movie that's coming out, that looks really good. The Lucy 2, Anna.
Yeah, I mean...
They're very stoic and very, very much just... Like the movie Lucy, yeah. When I was watching that, I was like, okay, this is just female John Wick. And I think Anna's going to be the same way. And those are awesome movies as well.
You liked Lucy? I did not.
I liked Lucy during the action. I thought that they tried a little bit too hard with the story.
That movie to me was just absolutely ridiculous. I could not get on board with that movie. But I mean, yeah, dude, as far as like that movie that you did real quick, just, you know, quick detour there. Anna, that does look really cool. Like that looks like a better version of whatever movie. What was it, Sparrow, Red Sparrow, or whatever that Jennifer Lawrence did. I didn't actually see it, but I didn't hear good things, and I didn't really bother to watch it. But like it does look interesting.
Yeah. I think Anna's just going to be a better version of Lucy in Red Sparrow. I agree with you. I didn't see the one. I didn't see Red Sparrow. I watched Lucy with my mom, and I was like, okay, Charlize Theron's pretty badass. Like that's why we were watching the movie. The fight scenes are fun, but the I don't know. Detour aside, John Wick's great. It was lots of fun.
Real high. Are we thinking of the same movie? Isn't Lucy with ScarJo?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it is.
I'm getting so confused. You just mentioned Charlize Theron. I was like, I didn't see that one.
Wait. What's that one called? Atomic Blonde. I'm thinking of Atomic Blonde.
Yeah. No. I was talking about ScarJo's Lucy. That movie was weird. But anyway, John Wick. So.
No. I'm thinking of Atomic Blonde. Atomic Blonde was awesome. Sorry, I got the name mixed up there.
Yeah.
Anyway, no. Yeah. John Wick.
Dude. Wow. One thing, like totally random, you probably didn't notice, but the guy who was like, whenever they would call into the HQ, whatever the hell it is, underground.
That was the Penguin from Gotham.
Yeah, dude. That was freaking Penguin from Gotham. Yeah. I was like, yo, that was cool.
And then the gang from the beginning of Force Awakens, he's in the movie. The gang leader, not the red guys.
Kanja Club, dude.
Kanja Club. No, not Kanja Club. The Asian gang that fights Kanja Club. Is it Kanja Club? What are the red guys? The red guys are Kanja Club, right? The guys with the red circle heads?
No, it's the other way around.
Oh, okay, yeah, then Kanja Club. Yeah, the Kanja Club.
That was the guy who played. That was the guy who played Tasu Leech. I was like, yo.
Yeah, he's in a bunch of great movies. I mean, that guy's awesome. That guy's awesome physically.
Yeah.
Man, much love to him, whatever his name is. Don't know the actor's name, but man, much love to him.
That dude, when the Continental gets like desecrated and you start that whole, but the way the music was building, it was kind of building almost in the same way the music was building at the very end of John Wick 2, and so I was like, oh, we're just going into John Wick 4 now. We're gonna have to wait 2 more years before we see like whatever's gonna happen next. And then I was looking at my phone. I was like, wait, no, we still have like 15 minutes. I was like, oh shit, we're gonna do a proper third act. I don't know why I thought the movie was gonna end there, and I was like, man.
No, the movie ended in a good spot. I definitely trusted that we'd see the Continental because of the fact that we needed a natural progression in John Wick, and this is by far. I mean, here's the thing about John Wick. It feels like a video game. Watch all 3 movies back to back, and it feels like you're slowly ramping up the fight. You're slowly, you start with street thugs, then you go to those intermediate guys, and then now you're at like heavily armored enemies. Like it just, oh man.
Yeah, and I love the $4 million glass structure that they had to build for this movie for that multi-level final battle sequence against Zero and his goons.
Yeah,
Holy crap!
The administration lounge.
Yeah, dude, I love how the first set of them, they were like they weren't as honorable and not as respectable. They're just trying to kill him outright and just kind of emerging from the shadows and giving it their best, and John eventually puts them down. But it was still really cool. I mean, the kicks. Yeah, literally the kicks those guys were delivering. I mean, yo.
Oh, here's the thing. So the actors besides Keanu Reeves, but they're incredible in terms of their physicality. Incredible physicality. And now Keanu Reeves himself, incredible physicality. Just not the same though as these young martial artists, right? It is insane how perfectly and how much weight is in each of their strikes. I mean, it can't be described. Go watch the movie because it's just a Chinese action movie made by Americans.
But when he does move up to that second level, and then the Kanja Club guys start dishing it out, I liked how they changed it up because those guys actually really admired him and like respected him enough to where like they helped him up. They were giving him a chance. It was just like they were so honorable, and I love that because John Wick 1 and 2 were movies that were both filled with small moments like that inject so much personality into what you would otherwise expect to be a generic action film. And that those moments I really appreciate, when and then they try to help him up the second time and he just kind of puts his hands up like, I got it. You know, I love that because it's like they're trying to kill each other, but they're still it's honorable. And then like I was
love that he didn't kill them. Might I add? I
Yeah.
love that he did not kill them because they were on the floor. They were squirming. He could have executed them, but he let them live because they let him live, and that was such. Because here's the thing about John Wick, and this is what you see in the Grand Terminal, right? When you see at the Grand Central Terminal, I think that's what it was, right?
Whatever. I think that was Grand Central, yeah. And then like the kids walk in between.
Walk in, and then Zero's like, "I wouldn't have stopped." Like that's what makes you special, John Wick.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Those moments, man, they inject so much personality into the movie, and I love that. It's like even beyond all the coordination, all the choreography, and the stylistic cinematography. You just have like, the movie has a spirit to it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is really cool, which you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, absolutely. John Wick isn't merciless, and it's really refreshing to kind of see that.
Yeah,
but at the same time he is, but he's not. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
I will say the one sequence when he goes and visits the elder, like the one who oversees the high table, somehow out in the middle of the desert in Casablanca, I was like,
who knows?
I was like, what are we doing here? Like, I thought that was cool, but if you even try to think about it for even a moment, I'm like, what? We got the guy from Wonder Woman here overseeing like all of the high table. I'm like, what? All right.
Now Ross. Now there's that, and then there's also the fact that he he cut off his ring finger to show that he was, he was dedicated to the table, and then he kind of just redacted that as soon as he saw Winston in the face. Like, I really thought that he was gonna kill him. I thought there was gonna be like a little struggle, and I thought he was just gonna like.
But then Winston brought up the very valid points. You want to kill me and then just be their servant until you die, or do you want to? I was like that was actually it wound up being he turned it into such and it became such a more black and white choice than you would have otherwise expected.
Right. It just
I thought that was cool. It was also so organic.
It seemed like he kind of just agreed to everything, which is fine because I mean he needed to. It
made sense though.
It did make sense, but at the same time it was kind of jarring. Like okay, he's agreeing to everything, but I mean he needed to protect number one.
Yeah, like I mean. Do you want to die as the servant of the high table, or do you want to die, a man who loved his wife? And I was like, yeah, that's just kind of the decision of will you be able to live with yourself? What kind of life do you want to lead after this moment?
Absolutely.
And that was cool, man. Because I personally, dude, like Ian McShane is so cool in these movies, and I didn't want to see Winston go. Because I feel like he adds so much to these movies.
Oh, I love his character development because like he's very familiar with John Wick, but in the first one, it kind of alludes to the fact that he's just absolutely terrified. He's the one who calls him the Baba Yaga. He's just absolutely terrified of John Wick. And the second one, they have the relationship that gets broken at the end, and he makes the reluctant choice to let John Wick leave, gives him the hour. But then, man, to see the switch at the end of the movie, like when he shot John Wick, sorry, this is a spoiler section, so I shouldn't be apologizing. I really thought that they were going to be blanks. I really did, and I thought John Wick was just going to stand up and walk away.
Yeah, now this sequence actually kind of confused me a little bit because did they plan that out?
What do you mean? Like, did Winston plan it out? I think so. Yeah.
I didn't know that was going to happen.
I mean,
that was one thing that kind of left me scratch my head at the end because I was like, okay, this makes sense if they kind of discussed this beforehand and John, knew what was going to happen and kind of took a glance down that balcony and decided how he was going to do the fall and, try to live.
Right, but I think it was a betrayal because of the end, specifically because of the Lawrence Fishburne part. I think it was a betrayal, and also the betrayal makes sense because of the fact that there needs to be a higher evil for the next movie. Chapter 4 needs to have an even bigger evil, right? Because this is the biggest thing he's faced so far, but now that he has to face his friend, he has to face the entire Continental, as well as the high table. It makes sense. But yeah, I really thought that he shot blanks at John Wick. I thought the end of the movie was going to end. You know that shot of Winston when he's walking through the lobby? Mm-hmm. I thought they were going to... cut, because he looks super smug in that image, I thought they were going to immediately cut to John Wick getting up and, like, brushing bullets off of a bulletproof vest or, like, brushing off his coat or something and then walking away. But no, he's carted off, so I really do think that betrayal is...
That's cold, too, if that really is the case after all of that. Especially because it's like, the like, hotel manager there. What's his name? Played by Lance... Reddick, I think is his name.
Lance Reddick, yeah, the concierge.
Yeah,
the concierge.
Yeah, man, the concierge, like, man, he's not going to be able to take care of the dog anymore. If that was actually a genuine betrayal,
right?
It's like, no, they're not friends,
right? Yeah, no, that sucks.
What a cool character, by the way.
Oh yeah,
I love his character. Oh my god, I wasn't expecting him to step up like that toward the end when they start pulling weapons from the vault and they start taking on the high table goons in the armor. I was like, he's gonna die.
Right, exactly. Yeah, 100%.
I was like, okay, yeah. I was like, they're gonna kill him in this movie. That makes he served a decent role and he's gonna die here. Man, that guy held his own.
So Ross, I wanna point out something. They were loading slugs into an M1014 shotgun. That's a semi-automatic shotgun. Ross, I have not shot an M1014, but I have shot plenty of shotguns using buckshot, and I have only shot a slug one time, and I could have sworn I had sprained my wrist really bad because it hurt. I was young, it hurt real bad. Using an M1014 with slugs? Are you kidding me? That's not an easy thing to do. It's just, I love the lack, because if this movie took itself seriously, I'd have a problem with that, but it doesn't. So to see Lance Reddick with an M1014 shooting slug shotguns, or slug rounds, just
and at first I thought, okay, those armor-piercing rounds, those slugs are going to do it, right? They're going to take them out, but man, when John just walks in, blows the guy's head off, I was like, oh shit.
Oh yeah.
And he just keeps doing it. I was like, oh my god, these guys are just getting blown away up against walls and The
headshot though doesn't make sense because the slug is a contained round. To get a head explosion, you need a buckshot that's multiple rounds. To have the spider webbing, if that makes sense.
Just go with it, Tate.
But oh man, like I said, dude, shooting a slug with a pistol grip shotgun hurts like hell. And they're just doing it casually. I love that so much. And the head explosion was done so well. If that shot was brighter and not as dark and moody, the movie would be NC-17. Like, I don't know how they got away with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No children, 17.
It was rough, crazy. Man. It was rough.
Speaking of 17, by the way, I'm 17. I'm going to turn 18 on Wednesday, funnily enough.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm 17. They wouldn't let me into the movie. They're like, I'm sorry, you need to be accompanied by somebody who's 21. And
dude, the complications that you had getting into the movie last night, I would have walked out.
Right, but anyways, quick story, guys, quick story. I mean, this is what the podcast format's great for, is that we can tangent and such. I go into the movie theater. I'm with my brother and his friend. My brother's 15. His friend's 15 as well. I go in there, I show him my ID. And he's like, okay, yeah, you can go through. And then as soon as I get to the person that rips your ticket, they're giving me weird looks. They're like, you're 17, you can't be seeing this movie. And I said, I can see an NC-17 movie if I want to. I could see a movie that's just pornography due to the movie theater laws. Right? And then they're like, oh, they're like hassling me, all this stuff. And then eventually they let me through. And then my brother and his friend are walking through the door, and I'm trying to get them in with me as well. And then they just say no. They're just like, no, we cannot let you bring 15-year-olds in. And I said, but I'm 17 years old. I bought their tickets. Legally, I'm allowed to. They're like, oh, no, we have our own policy that the person that brings them in has to be 21 or over. And it was ridiculous. So then I call my mom.
Miss one little detail, man.
Right. I mean, it's not even against the law or anything. It's just like their policy for some reason. I call my mom. My mom drives over. She buys a ticket. She goes in with the two kids. And then they don't let her in. They're like, no, you're just going to leave as soon as the movie starts. And she just looks at them. And she's like, I bought my stupid ticket. And then my mom's just like, Tate, because the podcast, just go watch the movie. So I go and I'm sitting down. And then I walk back out because I had to go to the restroom. So I walk back out and I see them and they're still talking to the manager. right? And
Yeah.
I don't know how it got resolved because after I went back to the restroom, I went back to the movie theater. But oh my gosh, I can legally bring my 15-year-old brother with me because I'm 17. This isn't an NC-17 movie. This isn't a no children allowed at all movie.
Right.
I just couldn't believe it. And then as soon as I get into the theater, oh my gosh, we had a row of seats, right? And this one dude would not get out of the seat. There were 5 guys that were in a group. And
I would have pulled out my ticket and just shown it to him and just stood in front of him until he moved.
Oh, I did. But anyway, there were 5 guys that were sitting there. They all moved to the left. They were super cool about it. But then there was just this one guy sitting right there. L9. And I said, dude, I have L9 through 11. And he says, I don't believe you. So I showed him my ticket. And then I said, do you have your ticket? And he says, I don't have my ticket on me. So I'm sitting there in the seat next to him. And my whole family comes. They all sit down. And like apparently they scared him off because the dude just left after my whole like group showed up.
Dude, what the hell?
And I was like, dude, I've never had that many complications at a movie theater. I've been watching rated R movies at the theater since I turned 17.
And you were texting me about all this. I was just rolling my eyes. Like, of course. What theater chain was this?
One more time?
What theater chain was this?
Regal. I've never had an issue. I've never had an issue at Regal.
Dude, Regal, they get weird sometimes, man. They'll just, out of nowhere.
Yeah, just
a Regal experience can just turn sour really quick.
I don't know what it was, dude, because I can legally see the movie. Like that was the craziest thing. I was like,
yeah,
legally I can see this movie.
Yeah,
but anyway,
yeah.
Jeez.
So, man, I can't think of anything else to really talk about with John Wick. I mean, there's so many other little scenes that we could bring up, like when he throws a guy into the pool, and little things like that. Bullets can't reach him because they're just getting suppressed by the water. Just so many little moments and scenes like that all throughout the damn movie that are just so great.
This movie
you can't possibly name them all.
It's 3/4 action to 1/4, 1 part like dialogue, and I appreciate that so much because that 1 part dialogue services the action, and the action services the story, and it's such a living organism, this movie, and it's just I don't know. I mean, doing a review on it's just not fair because this movie needs to be seen, I think, if you are a fan of high action, Western. This is a perfect Western cinematic movie, and if you are a fan of that, then definitely go see John Wick. I don't know if I could put a numerical value on it because of the fact that, it's not my preferred movie, so perhaps I'm not as into it as some other people, but
right.
This is for the average moviegoer. This is for the average Western moviegoer.
Walking out of it, I thought I was going to be like, yeah, that was good. One time, I'll see it when it comes on Blu-ray in several months from now. I kind of want to go see it again. It's like, after I see Endgame maybe a couple more times, if John Wick is still in theaters, it's like
8 times.
6.
You're gonna see 15 by the time it's out of cinema.
Dude, it's like my mom already forgot most of the movies. The other person I want to take, and it's like I'm gonna see Endgame more. I promise, I'm gonna do it. But either way,
I've seen it twice, and I'm more than satisfied.
Tate, Robert Pattinson may be the next Batman.
Maybe. I thought it was confirmed.
Hasn't been confirmed. Warner Brothers still hasn't issued any comment, but
they haven't paid him yet.
It's pretty damn. We're about crossing the edge of it being reality. It's just about locked in from what we've seen.
I do want to add, guys, the first time I had heard about this, Ross and I were playing Battlefront 2, and I was screaming about these stupid nerds on the map Jakku. So, because of the fact that I was in gamer mode, my initial thought was like, oh, Robert Pattinson, that's weird. Mostly because of his roles in more relationship-driven and rom-com movies. And then I kind of thought about it, and I was like, no, this dude's played a lot of different characters.
Yeah, you would think...
He has a lot of range. And, look at that jaw and chin. That is the perfect cowl jaw and chin.
Yeah, man. He's
like
definitely
Batman.
got the chin.
He looks like Batman. He can play the range. I'm looking forward to seeing him.
Now, listen. I absolutely believe that he is more than capable of delivering an incredible performance as Batman in however many movies he may wind up doing. But Tate, we had this discussion when Ben Affleck dropped out. It's like,
we're burned.
I'm done, man. I'll be there. I'll be there to support each separate movie, but I can't become immersed in whatever Warner Brothers tries to do next because, okay, this is a prequel. Now listen, I know this is the beginning and he's barely just, gotten cast, but if we're, focusing on the long game again, just for a moment, okay, let's say we get through a Robert Pattinson trilogy as the Batman, taking place before Man of Steel. Okay.
I don't like that at all.
Yeah, okay. Then we get to the end of that, and then what happens when it comes time to people start wondering when's the next Justice League? Now we've had a set of successful Batman movies. Maybe Superman has shown up as something during this time. That would be nice if Henry Cavill doesn't also dive out. But assuming Henry Cavill does too, what are we gonna? We're just supposed to accept a younger Robert Pattinson Batman and maybe somebody else playing Superman, God forbid, showing up with Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, Jason Momoa's Aquaman. I mean, Shazam even. I mean, Ray Fisher, it sounds like he's going to dive out of Cyborg too. It's like, this is exciting, man. It's just, I know it wouldn't benefit Warner Brothers, but I wish they would come out and just say, listen, the DCEU didn't work. We blew it. We still got a good thing going with a bunch of the other characters, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, etc. We're going to keep those going. There's not going to be any more crossover potential, unfortunately. We're going to keep those movies going, and we're just going to keep them all separate franchises. And I just wish that they would just come out and say that or something, because to me, they started this out as a cinematic universe. And I don't know about you, but I haven't been able to find anywhere where this has been, explicitly stated that this is supposed to be a prequel. And if this is even taking place in the DCEU, I mean, I certainly haven't seen anything about it quite yet myself, but maybe I'm wrong, but it's just, I can't get excited because this can never reach its full potential beyond Batman himself. Meaning it's like, now following the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe over this decade now, leading up to Endgame, and, if you ask me, at the very least, the success of bringing together Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, you can't get that again. You've changed the actor, you've changed the face of Batman and probably Superman. What are we doing? That's my question. What are we doing? Why should I care? Why should I get immersed if it just might be called off and its potential cut short at any given moment? It's hard to enjoy any movie or any set of films when when promises are this easily broken.
Yeah, so
from Warner Brothers.
My take on the DC, I'm not even going to call it the DCEU, but the DC movies that have been coming out since Man of Steel, I think they kind of need to just, cut their losses and say, hey, Shazam, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, those are canon. Those are all in the same universe. This Batman movie...
No, not even say that, man. Just say...
No.
Separate
Hear me out. So if they say that, there are three good movies to start with. They do the solo Batman movie. They just take Justice League out of canon, add Robert Pattinson in, and say, hey, this is a soft reboot of the DC universe. We're still using it, kind of like what they're doing with Suicide Squad. How they're still using some of the actors, but it's a soft reboot. They're just erasing the mistake from canon, and that doesn't work. I think that's what they're going for. And all I know is that.
But Tate, why should? Joker, but what if they blow it again, man?
But here's the thing.
Why should we?
Here's the thing. I don't care about the DC movies. I care that the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie is going to be a standalone, and that's the only thing I'm looking forward to.
But I mean, personally, for me, as somebody who absolutely loved the DCU and everything Zack Snyder was building from Man of Steel onwards, and was just so fully behind all of it despite the problems, I just don't intend on being smacked in the face again.
Yeah, well, I don't blame you.
That's all I'm saying, and so, like I said, I absolutely, first of all, I can't even begin to understand why so many people are so forgetful, and it's like they can't remember back to Heath Ledger, they can't remember back to Andrew Garfield, they can't remember back to all the other actors who have been cast before and then wound up absolutely nailing it. Now, I probably shouldn't have brought up Andrew Garfield there because I know that's pretty controversial for a lot of people, but Ben Affleck included. Even though Ben Affleck's Batman didn't necessarily have coherent motivations and was killing people, he was still Batman. Given the right script and given the right material, Ben Affleck absolutely could have been the definitive Batman. He was the guy. He should have been, exactly.
He was the Henry Cavill. He was as Henry Cavill as a Superman.
Listen, man, I don't think there's any actor working today that's going to play better than Henry Cavill.
I agree with you. Yeah.
I really don't. Good luck. Good luck finding him. I don't. They found him. That's the biggest crying shame to me, is that they tried the DCU, it collapsed, and they wasted some of the best actors working today for the roles in the process. And so now that potential is gone, even for whatever they try to do next. And I think that's the biggest shame. But yeah, man, it's like, and it sounds like they're going to be doing the Penguin and Catwoman for the first one. Apparently, that's the rumor. That sounds great, man.
Just bring Tim Burton back.
No.
Honestly,
man, I don't know about that, but
I love the Tim Burton Batman movies. They're so good.
Yeah, dude, so do I. But it's like, then they tried to bring Danny Elfman back in to score some other more recent movies, like for instance, and
but
I don't know
that Danny Elfman needs Tim Burton, and Tim Burton needs Danny Elfman. They are symbiotic. I think we've talked about this before, but they. I
don't know. I mean, with the passage of time, it makes you wonder.
That's true. But that is also true. But when you look at their kind of their legacy, oh man.
Yeah, but it's like I'm looking forward to it, but at the same time, man, and I was even apprehensive about thinking, when Ben Affleck was still on board, what is this going to look like? I don't think. Like, who is going to write better scripts than what Chris and John Nolan delivered for the Dark Knight trilogy?
Yeah, Ross, here's the thing. I know it's hard for you because you were so kind of ingrained into and so on board for Zack Snyder and all this kind of stuff. But like, from my perspective, dude, I'm just kind of watching the dumpster fire grow bigger and bigger.
Well, it certainly is a dumpster fire now, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a DC fanboy, but I don't like the DCU. I love the DC characters. I love DC Comics. I love that so much. But man,
either way, dude, again, it's like I don't think anybody should be shunning this casting choice. I mean, especially after Heath Ledger and Ben Affleck, it is foolish to assume that this is the wrong choice. And to just harken back to the Twilight movies, I mean, it's like, listen, man, from what I understand, I personally haven't seen his more recent work, but from what I understand over the last, over the last decade since, it has been nothing but like consistent performances on his part, and so I absolutely think Robert Pattinson can deliver an incredible and an amazing Batman. It's just I'm not as excited as I was in 2013 when Ben Affleck got cast. I'm just not.
Yeah.
Because it's like when we made it to the year 2019, I didn't think I would be staring a moment like this in the face, because it's like, Tate, I still remember in 2013 when when I saw the first piece of fan art of what Ben Affleck could look like as Batman, and just being so excited that I was looking at the future of Batman, and this is what it is going to look like for many, many years to come. And to just be, I feel like this has become a recycled version of that same moment. And so it's like, why should I care? And that's the thing, man. It's like, again, I'll be there. Who won't for a new Batman series, a new set of Batman movies? But it's like, as far as my immersion goes, as great as Robert Pattinson may be, I'm always going to have it in the back of my mind. This can just get cut short at any moment, and that's a shame.
That is a shame.
And maybe that's partially entitled on my part because we've been so spoiled with Marvel, right? You know, and that's how the film industry goes. I mean, anything can be cut short at any moment, but it's like.
But DC, I mean, they were following after Marvel, but they only half-assed it. So you should be looking at Marvel. You should be using that as an example because that's what they wanted. They wanted to cash in on Marvel's success and make their own franchise, and it didn't work.
Yeah, and it just seemed like they had all the capability of pulling it off. But yeah, I'm totally on board for the casting choice. Oh, yeah. I'm just not on board generally overall. I can't. So anyway, Tait,
Ross,
Lego Stranger Things.
Yeah, dude, that's cool. Let's pull that up.
I love how we always save all the Lego discussion for like the very end when probably not too many people are still here. Is anyone here? Hello.
Oh jeez. Oh jeez. Hey,
yeah, I mean, that's all right, man. But... Hey, well, I personally haven't been following the Stranger Things set too closely. I wasn't even really paying attention to the marketing they were doing leading up to the reveal. But oh my god, when they revealed the set and I did catch up, wow.
By the way,
just bravo to Lego.
This is all Ross.
What?
I said this is all Ross because I don't know anything about Stranger Things.
Have you not seen Stranger Things?
No. That's what I was telling you last week. I've never seen it.
Oh, dude, I forgot. Dude, gotta watch Stranger Things.
Eventually.
Well, this set definitely is a bit of a spoiler then, Tait.
Well, I see all this stuff in marketing.
This entire set is one big celebration of Stranger Things Season 1.
Oh, yeah?
And it is so expertly put together with the house on top and then the upside-down mirrored version beneath. And the whole set propped up on 2 pillars of trees can be flipped one way or the other. That is so impressive. And just a whole set featuring top-quality minifigures. With all new face designs and new printing for the torsos, and it is just an incredible set. I mean,
how much is it, Ross?
It was $200, and I say it was because I bought it and it's sitting in my living room right now.
that's a pretty good price to piece, as well as.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, man. Like really the set definitely could have been more expensive. Yeah, it's like 2,287 pieces, and it's really well done. I'm very much looking at building it. It's got so many details, and it just looks so well designed. And I mean, it's going to be like the ultimate display piece to just kind of, symbolize the whole series. And I'm looking forward to talking about it. I'm going to do a review on it next week, and it should be really great. All the new hair pieces and different elements that they introduced, like the new hat for the kid. I forget his name, with the funny teeth. And,
Dustin.
What? Dustin. Thank you.
Yeah, I know that.
I'm
practically a Stranger Things fanatic.
Yeah, I forgot. But then like Will, they made a new hairpiece for him. I mean, just really, really great stuff. And the creature, who I won't spoil because I don't know how much you know about it.
Demigorgon, right?
Yep. Yeah, okay. Well, at least you know the name. I'm sure you probably at some point along the way over the last few years.
Dude, I'm a fanatic, dude.
Introduced, dude. The new piece for that is just excellent. Oh, I mean, just. I think like Hopper looks really great. Not necessarily the best likeness on him or 11, but they work. They're really great, man. This whole set is phenomenal. I mean, I cannot wait to put it together and review it. It just the passion that was poured into this set, the marketing. I mean, like the 80s ads that they made for this are just
they're awesome.
Dude, I showed those to my mom. And it was just like, we had a moment. It was just like so awesome. I really just got to commend Lego when they just really insert, it's just like the excitement for the project just like comes out in all that promo material. You can really feel it, from Lego. The excitement goes both ways. It is definitely not a single direction transaction on that front. And so I just really appreciate that because it feels like a product that was made by fans. right? And they just really did not miss out on anything. They really included so much, and it's awesome, dude. Even the instruction manuals have so much detail, and they have like classified stickers all over the front, and instead of actual pictures of the set to kind of mimic, whatever classified materials might be found in the facilities in the show and the actual series. And the stickers are all impeccable. I mean, I cannot wait to bust that thing open and build it tomorrow.
Yeah, dude. The upside down logo on the bottom. I wish that they did all of the information as well, all the set information.
Yeah, man.
Scooby Pants. Yeah, we showed off the Mark 85 at the beginning of the podcast. So rewind to that point. There's a lot of chat we need to check up on. Sorry, I just saw that. So after we talk about Stranger Things set, we'll check on chat. Sorry, guys, we've kind of been neglecting it.
That kind of happens on the podcast.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, this set looks awesome.
Yeah,
that's all I got.
They got like a Hopper's his
Bronco
car there, and that's really dude. The Honda there, it's really really well put together. I just wasn't expecting this set to be so good. Yeah. I mean, when I saw it, I figured they'd make the house, right? Mm-hmm. I figured they would make a decent looking set. I wasn't expecting them to also do the upside down flipped version of the house in that alternate dimension. I'm like, and the fact that the trees, it can actually support it and hold it up, whichever way you have it, just so wildly impressive. And I just love all the different building techniques that I'm seeing throughout it. I'm just so excited to put it together. I wasn't expecting this set to be so great, and because I wasn't following along with all the rumors and leaks leading up, it just all hit me as one big surprise, and I was like, I'm buying this set. I'm not missing out on this, especially because Stranger Things is the one series that gets my family and I to drop what we're doing whenever there's a new season to just watch the new episodes. Mm-hmm. And so this set's special, man. It really is.
For sure. Awesome, Ross.
So yeah, dude, watch Stranger Things, Tate.
I will, yeah. I hear it's like Black Mirror and the new It movies, and it's like a kid like Steven Spielberg, like really high production. I like Black Mirror. I only bring that up because of like the production cost.
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit like Black Mirror, just obviously a much slower burn because it's not singular episodes. That's entire seasons leading up. It's very I mean it's so heavily inspired by Steven Spielberg. I mean it's just unbelievable. It's a fantastic series, man. It really is.
And then to round us off here today, I'm holding my gecko right now. She almost just fell off my hand. But we have some information regarding Endgame via the writers, the directors, Kevin Feige. So yeah, Ross. I mean, I know you know about this stuff. I have no idea because I mean, I kind of don't pursue that. But
yeah, I mean,
we discussed this last week, earlier in the week.
I don't exactly have like a comprehensive list.
Right, but just a few ideas, a few.
Yeah, I mean, like I guess to start off, there was going to be like so spoilers for Avengers Endgame. Go see them.
Okay, I don't even think we need to get the warning anymore.
But apparently, Black Widow's entire death scene on Vormir was going to have a big secondary element. Thanos and his forces were going to have they were going to pursue them to Vormir and basically be attacking that mountain. And that whole sequence of them deciding as to who goes over was going to happen in the midst of combat against the Chitauri and the Outriders and Thanos coming up. And it was like, yo.
That's crazy.
That would have been nuts. I get it why they didn't go that route because it made the sequence a lot more intimate and focused on these two people that, love each other, quite a lot. And it's like, it was just such a great exit sequence. And their best sequence together in the entirety of the MCU. Yeah. And yeah, man, and there was stuff like that. There was so many other things that they mentioned that they wanted to throw in the movie, like the Hawkeye snap sequence in the beginning was actually going to be like kind of a jarring moment that they were going to insert after the original snap at the end of Infinity War to kind of throw off the audience, and that was actually meant to be an Infinity War originally before they moved it to the intro of Endgame.
The intro, it was so good. I mean, it was so expertly done. It was perfect.
Yeah, and
talk about
man, there were just so many little cut moments like that from Endgame that didn't ultimately make it in. And I mean, I'm low key stalling so I can pull up the list
Okay, there's also Black Widow's confirmed done so, right? Isn't it confirmed that the Soul Stone?
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of Vormir, they also say that Captain America would indeed have had to gone to Vormir and encountered Red Skulls, and that they're really that happened, even though we didn't see it, and that Red Skull and the Soul Stone probably had a no money back policy.
So I wonder if Red Skull has his memories of being Johann Schmidt. Does he?
Oh God, yeah, dude. I mean, he says it in Infinity War, a lifetime ago.
Yeah,
man.
But I mean, it could be so insignificant that like Steve comes up to him and he kind of treats him as like a distant figment of the past, because we don't know how time is on Vormir. It could be.
You want to try to kill me? Go ahead. I don't even care.
I don't even think you could, dude. As the Guardian of the Soul.
No, I mean, I have to imagine like they really would have just come to an understanding at that point after everything that's happened. I mean, the guy has become this like cosmic wraith. He's not the Nazi leader of Hydra anymore. And Captain America is much wiser than he once was. He's seen it all at this point.
Captain America would understand too that this guy can't do anything. He's completely powerless. He's bound to the power of the Soul Stone as its one sole protector.
But and also there is apparently going to be a big thing with Widow and orphanage set up.
Okay.
In Washington D.C. and she was going to be like heading up this entire refuge for orphan children that lost their parents in the snap.
To see that, like, bring up the diner.
I would have loved it, man.
Because I like, here's the thing: we needed to see the Avengers helping people. Like, okay, great, Captain America's helping Joe Russo, with his
right.
Relationship issues. But, like, come on, we need to see actual humanity.
This is where I take issue with that particular decision on the Russo's part. I get it, and they were very blunt about it too. They said, if we have the decision to do a scene showcasing the reactions between Extra 4 and 5 or Jeremy Renner, we're going to go with Jeremy Renner. And it's like, listen, man, but I think the Avengers are fighting for the world, right? They're fighting for the civilians that we saw in the original Avengers. They're fighting for mankind, for people, for humanity. And to not show humanity is like,
come on.
You lose something there. You lose the connection. There's a disconnect between the Avengers and the world that they fight for when you don't show the world. And sure, in Civil War, they show it in bits and pieces, like with Vienna. You did see a tiny little like meeting with Cap in Endgame, but you saw some people at the Vanish Monument in San Francisco, but you just get tiny bits. It's like, listen, and I talked about this after seeing Infinity War and my hopes for what I wanted to see in the beginning of Endgame. Man, I wanted to see the universe, just a tense, like a minute-long montage, just panning over places. I mean, just inserting that into the movie just briefly to see the emptiness and how society is limping on after across the cosmos, including Earth, I think was so important. And I just don't agree that they couldn't take a second, like a minute out of their 3-hour runtime to do that. I thought that was really important. I think it was a shame that it wasn't included in Endgame. But Tate, I don't know what your take is on that.
I don't need to see the whole universe. Personally, I needed to see Professor Hulk like lifting cars off of people and like getting cars out of the road. Because think about how many.
Oh yeah, man, that's right. Yeah, so the writers,
right,
Chris Marcus and Stephen McFeely, they said that there was actually a different intro scene for Professor Hulk. And it wasn't going to be the diner scene originally. It was going to be an entire montage, like a Superman-esque montage of Professor Hulk, now introing us to Bruce Banner in his prime as Professor Hulk, saving people from like burning buildings and other things like that post-snap. And
so instead of a montage,
that would have been cool, man.
Instead of a montage,
I would have preferred that over the diner scene.
Oh yeah, I would have preferred that. But what I would have liked the most is to see like kind of a UNICEF situation where they're like taking people's blood and they're giving out vaccines, and like Professor Hulk is clearing the roadways of cars, because think about how many people got dusted while driving and like creating big car collisions, and who can move them? A big green man.
Yeah, and then like for Steve and Ant-Man to walk up on that and Scott to react to it, think that would have been great.
Right, and then Scott
and the writers said that the writers said that the diner scene basically achieved the same emotions you would have had from that cut montage sequence that they had planned. And I was like,
no, dude, no.
Listen, I would have taken that sequence showing what Professor Hulk has been up to over the if you ask me, the mishmash diner scene any day. I mean, like,
here's my issue.
The diner scene might be my least favorite scene in all of Endgame. Not gonna lie, even though Professor Hulk is amazing in it, the scene that surrounds Professor Hulk in that moment was not. Yeah. Lose too much for Endgame.
I don't like Professor Hulk in Endgame. I think he's an absolute joke, and I feel like that's the character assassination. I really would.
I disagree, but
here's the thing: if they just would have introed him helping people and being an actual human being, I know he's not a human being anymore, but you guys know what I mean. He has the brain of one. If they had him helping people, it would have fixed my. It probably would have fixed all my issues with Professor Hulk in general. All he had to do was help people at the beginning of the movie, and then I would be on board 100%. But that's not what happened. We had the diner scene.
And that's the problem with time jumps. It just kind of like negates any reaction you're trying to have to the developments that have happened to the characters in that time, because you don't get to see it because you've jumped ahead 5 years.
Back to the time travel talk. Now you're gonna get me started, and I'm gonna be going on for 5 hours, and I'm gonna get chat saying it's not that deep, and I'm gonna say no, Chad, it is that deep. I'm just teasing you guys.
But yeah, man. I mean, it's like personally, I think that that's the culmination of the Hulk's arc, right? Is for him to get to this point and find that common ground between the two personalities, himself and the Hulk.
This is Bruce Banner's
and
arc,
for them to just suddenly cut to that after all these years in a diner scene. That's. I would prefer the montage for sure. I don't think it was a character assassination. I think it was a natural progression for the Hulk. It's just you skipped that progression and just showed up there instead of being, led into it, unfortunately, as a result of the time jump. A character assassination was Thor. That was taking it way too far.
I honestly, though, I think that, like, in my head, in my opinion, that Thor and Hulk have the same issue. Right? But the thing with Professor Hulk specifically is that there's no Hulk. It's just Professor, and Professor's just goofy. And he doesn't have... It's kind of like when people complain about, like, Iron Man not having persistent PTSD, which I have less of a problem with. But, like, he was scared of this monster, and of course he's going to come to peace with it, but he's still a genius scientist. He's not a joke. And they play him off as a joke. And it's just such a bummer. Bruce Banner is a genius. I mean, look at what he's done. He has 7 PhDs. He's like Tony Stark level in the comic books. But in this movie, he's like...
Listen, man, at least it was better than Ragnarok.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, he's not as much.
That's not saying much, but at least it was a step up from that.
Yeah, at least he had some emotions with Natasha.
I mean, yeah, I don't think it was a true return to form for them, but it was feasible. It was it was workable. But yeah, man, there was also going to be a whole thing with Iron Man facing Heimdall, because originally Iron Man was going to go to 2013 Asgard. And he was going to use a cloaking, he was going to cloak the Mark 85, but then Heimdall would have seen through it and then attacked him. And there was going to be a whole fight that ensued there. They also had an idea for Thor to encounter his 2013 self, which would have been kind of cool. But I'm glad
to the Cap
for Nebula, because like how confusing would that have been if these characters just kept encountering past versions of themselves?
Well, here's the thing: like if they just got rid of the Captain America fight and did the Thor fight instead, that would feel fine. But if they did all three, the Nebula, Captain America, and Thor, then it would feel jarring.
Right. Then you would have lost some people.
Yeah, I really liked the groups. I really thought that was a strong decision that they made, specifically Iron Man and Cap going back to 2012 and then back to 1970. I mean, that was good, in my opinion.
Yeah, man. No, I loved all of that. I wouldn't trade that 1970s really for anything. I mean, it was just so perfect for Tony and Cap. I mean, what an idea. I couldn't even have dreamt up a sequence like that.
Yeah.
That serviced the two of them so perfectly by having, plot devices at that location at that time, but also both Howard Stark and Peggy.
Well, here's the thing.
I'm like,
Howard Stark,
perfect.
Peggy and Pym, because now here's the thing.
Pym, yeah.
Iron Man and Captain America are so inherently connected, and we don't really see that past Civil War because there's all the talks about Howard going on and on about Steve and all this kind of stuff, and then to see kind of the fruits of labor, if that makes sense, on behalf of the people of the MCU, seeing all of these characters come together at one centralized location, because we saw that in Ant-Man, the first one, where we saw S.H.I.E.L.D. being formed by Peggy and Howard, and then Hank Pym coming on board. And it's just such a great scene because it connects Captain America and Tony Stark so much more than they would otherwise be connected, which just makes the whole MCU so much stronger.
Yeah, man. I honestly don't even have anything to add to that.
Yeah. Oh man. But anyway, you want to read chat for a second because we have been kind of overlooking it. I know there's a lot of people.
You're so caught up in the discussion. It's like we forget. Sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot of people asking you questions, Ross.
Thanks for inspiring me to make my own customs, Ross. And do you prefer John Wick or Ronan? Hey, thanks, Tim Sargent. I appreciate it, man. That's awesome. Do I prefer John Wick or Ronan? I mean, as far as action goes, probably John Wick. As far as character goes, definitely Hawkeye. You may not agree, Tate, but
that's pretty. Yeah, no, that's accurate.
Anyway, Lego P3 says Bruce was so serious on Avengers, now he's a goofball. Yeah, man, that was a problem that Tate and I have discussed. It's like
I love Bruce Banner's character.
You kind of have like the unpopular opinion of not really liking Thor Ragnarok all that much, and it's that's largely because Chris Hemsworth and Mark Ruffalo are playing themselves. And while I really appreciated what they were doing in all the movies leading up, Thor 1, Avengers 1, Age of Ultron. Even the character development that was brought up in the Dark World for Thor, it was really just a too major of a departure from the characters they were establishing, and they just started playing themselves instead of Thor and the Hulk. And I mean, as far as Thor goes for Endgame, really became a shit show, like we discussed in our Endgame talk. And that's also why I'm not making Fat Thor. I didn't appreciate that. I didn't appreciate this version of Thor as much as most people did. And yeah, the Hulk was kind of like, it wasn't a true return to form for Bruce Banner Endgame, but to me it was almost like a compromise. Yeah. That's what I felt like it was with Professor Hulk in this. But yeah, Lego Pete. So also Tate, I think we've talked about this maybe in the last episode. I don't know, but the whole sequence where Tony would have entered the Soul World, had that same out-of-body experience as Thanos did in Infinity War, but now in Endgame for Tony, where he would have encountered a future version of Morgan Stark, played by Catherine Langford. Langford? I don't know why I just totally butchered that at the end. Catherine Langford. She did. They shot a whole sequence together, she and RDJ, and apparently it was really great, but threw a lot of people off because it kind of robbed people of those raw, heartbreaking emotions they were trying to have, because you just saw Tony pretty much die. You knew he was dying after doing the snap. You knew what was coming, and you really can't feel that emotion because suddenly you're still with Tony now in the Soul World and being confronted with a future version of his daughter Morgan. Personally, I would have been fine with it either way. I hope, and if I hope that scene, I hope we get to see that scene at some point.
It's gonna be the Blu-ray extended cut and deleted scenes and all that kind of stuff. That's gonna be there.
I would hope so. I hope we get to see it at some point because that sounds like a great sequence that I don't think should be sealed away and like locked away, because that sounds really moving.
For sure, yeah. I agree.
But I get why they decided to keep it a little bit more cut and dry. But yeah, man, and I was surprised to hear that they also, the writers Chris and Steven, they originally weren't planning on going back to the original Avengers in 2012.
Yeah,
they were time traveling, going to all these different places. Morag, Asgard. And the Russo stepped in and Feige were like, "Let's go to the Avengers in New York in 2012." and it's like, 'cause it does make perfect sense. And so that's when they really began, I think, crafting the entire second act there around the Battle of New York in 2012 and getting all the Infinity Stones at that point in time.
I love Nat
But,
just saying, like, there were 3 stones in New York at one time. Like, that was so good.
Yeah, and then so Bruce is like, shut the front door. So obvious.
I mean, I think that's a perfect. I think that they made a great with that. I mean, it's pretty perfect.
It worked in seamlessly. Yeah. I mean, in terms of planning out when to obtain each stone, that was about as perfect of a plan as they could have come up with. Absolutely. Yeah, there was apparently also going to be an entire sequence that they were considering of having Professor Hulk in his lab, like figuring out how to come to that compromise between his personality and the Hulk. But they didn't really get past the initial drafts, which is a shame. Meaning, like, they were planning on showing a sequence like that where you get that conflict and you get to see that moment where the Hulk kind of comes to that compromise between the two personas, but they ultimately wound up deciding against it. So, all these things we're talking about, I think they considered. It's just they wound up on the cutting room floor. And that originally the plan was Hawkeye that was hard. Had versions of the story where that happened instead. But man, just so many little moments like that they had planned out for Endgame that I think a lot of them stands to reason why they were pulled, but a couple of them I think should have stayed in. Mm-hmm. Like, personally, man, I would have been okay with Thanos attacking them in that scene on Vormir.
Yeah, I would have been too, but I mean, there was a lot of emotional resonance.
Yeah, but I still think you could have achieved that even with the forces of Thanos and his forces attacking them.
Here's the thing, Ross. With Thanos and the forces attacking, it would also add more context to 2014 Thanos raiding the Avengers at the end.
Yeah.
It would have added more context, and would have made that scene make more sense overall.
Yeah, and I don't know. I guess for me, when I imagine what Endgame would look like, I always kind of scenes just like always being the only option, right? To have those large scale sequences at every turn. Whereas the Russos definitely like to focus more, and the writers, like to focus more on these more intimate moments when they matter the most. And I can't necessarily argue with that, but I would have been, I'm fine with either iteration. But yeah, I mean, the scene with Morgan Stark grown up, I personally would have loved to see that. I wouldn't have been thrown off. But yeah, man, so much that they considered for Endgame. And I hope that we get to see at least some of it on the Blu-ray. So, absolutely. Yeah, man, I think
that kind of rounds
that's going to do it for episode 10. We've been going for a hot minute here.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that was a good episode overall, I think.
Yeah, so thank you guys for joining us for 10 episodes so far of the podcast. We're still trying to come up with a decent name. We still haven't figured that out. The MGF Podcast is still very temporary, but it's the name we're still running with at the moment. But this is, like I said toward the beginning of the show, been a really great platform that we've made here. Nice little hangout spot on Saturdays to just talk about all this cool stuff as it happens with you guys, to hang out with some of you who are so kind enough to show up to hang out with us while you may be doing something yourself. And really appreciate that, man, because this is awesome. And yeah, so Tate?
Ross?
I think we're done.
Yep, that'll do it. Yeah, I just want a special thanks to Gary real quick before we end up here. But yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Bye-bye.
All right, take care.